from when we took back, everything was, people were getting killed, millions of soldiers were being annihilated, demons splattered off the side of the rocks, and mountains, elephants getting their tusks pulled out and slapped all over the place. It all gets very intense when Krishna comes up the picture. I think, I can't wait to take birth on the same planet where Krishna's performing his pastimes. It'll be great. We'll just be having picnics all day, and we'll be doing the rest of dance in the evening. It'll be brilliant. But there's demons running around and everyone's getting freaked out. It seems like Krishna's going to die. He's been underwater for 3 hours. Oh my God, everyone is like totally on the edge. It's like anxiety.
How do we know we are half-hearted?
What's that?
How do we know we are half-hearted?
How do you know if you are half-hearted? You can ask your wife.
Sometimes,
Prabhu, I missed it.
sometimes you desire.
How do you know you're half-hearted?
Sometimes you desire, right?
Ask your wife.
If you have a desire, but you are not able to, right? So is it half-hearted?
Well, your mind knows if you're half-hearted, because it's the mind that will come back to you later on and criticise you. The mind will say to you, so look, you're just a waste of space, that was so useless what you did there. You're kidding yourself on, you're not even a proper devotee. The mind is like having a CCTV camera inside your skull. It's looking at everything you're doing, it's recording it all, and then later on it'll fire it back at you. You could have done that a lot better. You could have done this a lot better. You didn't really try. You only donated that much. You could have given a lot more.
Yeah.
You overate. Looking at you didn't need that extra pakara, and you ate more. You're such a fat pig. I'm disgusted with you. That's what that's your dear friend.
Yeah.
He's watching everything, and then he's going to fire it back at you to discourage you from practicing Krishna consciousness. That's your mind. That's what your mind does. If we conquer it, but if we don't conquer the mind, then it's our worst enemy. So it remembers everything we've done that's wrong, and then to discourage us, it will remind us just the moment when we have to step forward and do something for Krishna, then the mind comes in.
At the same very time. If we don't do at that very moment, after that moment gets passed, it will ask us, it will have to back. Don't leave it, don't do it, it's okay.
And then with the intelligence, we have to realize, okay, well, maybe I can't conquer the mind completely in one go, but I want to bring the mind toward this path, and I have to be patient with the mind. Because if you're impatient with the mind, then it will react, and then it will gain more strength. If you're fighting, you're chanting and you're fighting with the mind, and you're, no, I don't want to think of that, no, don't think of that, don't think of that, don't think of that, don't think of that. Then they'll say, don't think of what? And that's it. So the better thing is to not even get into it with the mind, just, okay, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Just not connect with it. Otherwise, as soon as you do it, then it starts feeding, and then it gains more and more momentum, more and more strength. I mean, when we're talking about chanting Hare Krishna, and definitely in the beginning stages, we're not really talking about chanting Hare Krishna at all. We're just talking about controlling the mind.
Yeah.
We haven't even got to the point yet where when you're chanting Hare Krishna, that's what they do in the spiritual world. And in the material world, we're just battling with the mind. The holy name is can't even get in. There's that much mind going on. The holy name is like bouncing off the mind. They can't get in because there's so much going on in the mind, like a vortex. So we're dealing more with how we're going to control the mind. How are we going to become wise to understand that this is the mind and this is not me? Because the mind impersonates you so that you think it's you. And it's like, look, I've got your back here, I know that it's really tough. And we all know you're not really getting a taste out of this. So all I'm saying is, let's just have a little bit of fun. That's all it is, just a little bit of fun. Just to stimulate us a little bit, keep us going, because things are getting a bit dry. And so it looks like that's your mind being your friend.
Mind knows everything, that yes, this is the best thing for me. But still, as soon as we start, it deviates. So why that, why it's because he knows everything that this is the reason I'm chanting. This is the best thing what I'm doing. But still, as soon as we do something, it just deviates us. So why is that? Why we go off? We have all the intelligence that yes, this is the best thing.
Well, the mind isn't intentionally setting out to trip us up, but the mind is there. It's like you have the mind, you have the intelligence, and you have the false ego. So generally when we're talking about the mind, we don't realize that we're talking about the intelligence and the false ego as well. They're all different departments, you see. You have like different subtle coverings. So the mind is the grossest of the coverings. Intelligence is a finer element. False ego is finer still. And then there's the consciousness which is pervading all the elements. So the false ego causes the problem, because the false ego identifies you with earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, and intelligence, the false ego. So the easiest thing to do is to disconnect from it all by destroying the false ego. And the false ego is, I am God, I am in control, I am the most important, I am the center. I am God. That's the false ego. And then with that, it brings in the intelligence and the mind, and then the senses, and everything else comes in with that. So Prabhupada said the sound vibration of the Maha Mantra dissolves the false ego. So it's like pouring acid on the false ego. So you don't listen to the mind, you don't fight with the mind, you just keep pulling yourself back to the mantra, and the mantra keeps going in, that sound vibration goes in, and it dissolves the false ego. And when the false ego is dissolved, then we realize, I'm just a servant. Krishna's in control. I'm just a servant. There's just some service I can do. And then there's no problem. No problem at all. Confirm.
Oh yeah.
So that's what so the false ego, if we can be humble, if we can serve, if we can realize we're insignificant, if we can realize everything's not revolving around us, then we get free of the false ego, then we can chant nicely. Very nicely. That's why Lord Chaitanya is saying, Kirtaniya Sadhana, you'll be able to chant constantly if you can consider yourself lower than straw in the street, more tolerant than the tree, and devoid of all sense of false prestige, then you'll be able to chant all the time. So the only thing that's stopping you from chanting all the time is your false ego, your pride. You're thinking, I don't really need to do it. I'm okay, you know. I mean, after all, I'm the center of the universe. Everyone knows it. What's the point in denying it? Why don't we just accept, you know? That's what schizophrenia is. Anyone study mental health? Yeah. Schizophrenia? There was one guy, he believed that the council in the morning, just before he got up, erected all these fronts of houses. He said, when you look out the window and see all the houses, they're not really proper houses. If you were to go out and look behind, it would just be the front of the house on a stick that the council had put up. And at night, they put them all down again. And they just bring them back up again in the morning. So this is what schizophrenia is. Everything is based around me. I'm the center of whatever's going on around me. So it's like acute false ego. Very intense false ego.
Delusion.
Yeah. Delusions of grandeur. And we all have it to one degree or another. But I mean, there's a really funny thing that happened. This is like such a vivid example. This guy's playing football, right? He's the goalkeeper. And so the guy he runs up and he kicks the ball, and the ball bounces off the top of the thing, you know, and it goes. I think he's taking a penalty actually. So the goalkeeper's like this because the ball didn't go in the net, you know, it just goes straight up in the air. And he comes out from the goal and he's like that, and all the other side. And the other guy, he's put his shirt over his head, and then the ball goes up. Then it comes down, and when it comes down, it bounces on a lump of grass that's been kicked up in the football game. It bounces up and it goes into the net. And the goalkeeper, he's wondering why all the crowd is suddenly booing him, you know. And he looks around and he sees the ball's gone in, and he's like this. And then the other guy who kicked the ball, he takes a shot and he's like, and he's taking all the credit for it, you know. So this is what the false ego is. As soon as it's going right, that was me. As soon as it's going wrong, oh no, some of the mistake, you know. So as soon as the false ego just spins around. So, but the problem with taking the credit for stuff is that then you have to take the blame for stuff. So by being very humble, although you're not taking any credit for anything, any abilities that you have, the good thing is that when things go wrong, you understand, well, you know, I'm only trying and I'm useless anyway. And Krishna's just showing me here that I'm not in control, so that's fine, you know. So then it's not a problem.
So what's the distinct difference between the false ego and the mind? How do you differentiate?
The mind is more simple, so it's like kind of dull, you know. If you were to listen to the mind, it would be something like this. Oh, what are we doing today? And you say, we're going to chant Hare Krishna. And okay, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And then the intelligence's voice would be like, hey, what's happening here? Are we going to get this together? Is it going to happen? Remember that happened the other day? And you have to think about this as well, and that could happen, and this could happen. What if they say this, and you say that, and you say that, and you said that the last time, and what's going to happen there? And if you do that, so that's the intelligence faster and more finer, and then the false ego. And the false ego sounds like, who the hell does he think he is? Did you see that look on his face? The way he served me, that however? Who the hell? Does he not understand who I am? Does he not understand who I actually am? Does he understand? This is the false ego. The false ego sounds just like us. It's like, I am not going to stand for this anymore. That is totally not my God. I'm not going to stand for this. And then the intelligence comes in, okay, well if he says that, what do you want? And then the mind goes, what's the program? We're going to get a gun and blow his head off. Okay. And then the mind just goes along with it. Whatever the program is, the mind says, well, what do we do? Okay. It usually takes, I find from Chant Japa, it usually takes about an hour and a half. And after an hour and a half, the mind says, what are we doing? You say, we're trying to chant Hare Krishna. Oh, why doesn't somebody say Hare Krishna? Like after an hour and a half, the mind finally catches on. Oh, the chanting Hare Krishna. So it's quite dull, it's quite simple and light actually. Like a bit of a bozo. So if you can get the false ego good, then everything will fall in automatically. If you can get the mind to chant with you, then it's chanting is a lot nicer. But a lot of the time we're dragging the mind around with us, you know. See, when you take up Krishna consciousness, there's one person that doesn't get used to that, but that's your mind. And later on the mind says, I told you we should do this. I told you that from the start, it's a waste of time. You don't know this. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. It's crazy. I told you. I told you. Years ago. You just ignore it, you don't have to
देता हूँ थोड़ी देर में देता हूँ.
The mind never agrees. You take initiation and you take all your vows and the mind's always tapping the shoulder. I never took those vows. You took them. I never said I was going to do it. I know, but it's the right thing to do. You might think it's the right thing to do. So that's your mind. You're dragging it around with you all the time.
But this is the only thing we have, our life is the only thing we have from which we are getting identified. So isn't it the false ego is the thing which is protecting us from, any kind of tool for us to survive?
Yeah, the false ego is protecting us. From false ego, it's protecting is false. That's why it's called the false ego. If it was the real ego, then it would be protecting us. But it's the false ego, so it's protecting the false things. So it's protecting my image. Like we have I, me, and mine. So we know what I is, right? I is the body. And mine means anything that the body owns is mine. So that's I and mine. But what's the me? I, me, and mine. The me is your profile. No, I wouldn't wear those jeans. They're just not me. Flares. It's just not me. You've got this idea of who you are. I wouldn't be seen dead in that car. That car. It's just not me. It's not me. I, mine, and the me is your self-concept, your standard that you want people. You have your Facebook profile and you have to be like this in a t-shirt in the Bahamas and your wife's the headed teeth white, so she looks like Miss USA, and everything's like, that's me, that's who I am. And then they don't see you next week, and you run down flat and clapping with a naked car and rusty arches on it. That's not what you want people to see, you see. So the false ego is the false me, and that's what it's protecting. It's protecting the false
thing.
of how you want people to see you, your status, how you want them to respect you and appreciate you.
Respect is something.
We're looking for respect. I mean, a bit of worship wouldn't go amiss. Recognition, admiration. Yeah, this is good. Okay, then I can go with this. You know, this is what people are living for. You know, this is what they're fueled by, and it's false ego. It's all false because the whole thing's all falling apart and decomposing before your very eyes. You know, and then what we want is to protect the real ego. And the real ego is you're a tiny 10,000 the tip of the hair. You're an eternal servant of Krishna. You have nothing. You came in with nothing, and you go out with nothing, and you have some time here at your disposal to use in the service of God, or not use in the service of God as you deem fit. That's the real ego. And people are wasting their whole human form of life protecting something which isn't them in the first place. What a waste of time. You know? It's like going to a fancy dress party, right? And you dress up as Napoleon, and then later on people are going to find out that you're not actually Napoleon, but you're so into being Napoleon now, so you super glue the hat onto your head, and you're trying to find out all about Napoleon so you can behave like him, and then everybody is going to relate to you as this person, and you don't even know who you are. You're trying to be Napoleon because you think that will get you some importance, and it's not even who you are.
Absolutely true.
So we're all at a fancy dress party, and this is the fancy dress. It's made out of flesh, blood, mucus, stool, plenty of mucus. I've got more than enough here, I can tell you. And we're going around with it. We're trying to look cool in it and make out, spray it so it smells okay. And this is me, cool, That's all false ego. And we're all in the fancy dress party. And then someone's just stopped the party and said, by the way, guys, I don't know if you've realised, but this is a fancy dress party, and we're all supposed to find out who we are before we have to take the costumes off. Otherwise, you're back from another fancy dress party in your next lifetime. And everyone's like, oh my God, I'm not this, I'm not Napoleon. Please, does anybody know who I am? I need to find out who I am. Oh my God, So you got one lifetime before this one finishes. From now to the day you die, however long that is. For some of us, it's not so long now. You've got to try and find out who you are, what your swoop is. Otherwise, you're coming back again into another fancy dress party, and the next time you won't be Napoleon, you'll be Cleopatra, and you'll be very confused. That's what all this transgender is, people are taking birth from one sex to the other, and then they don't know who they are or what they are. They're kind of totally confused. They can't even work out what their false ego is. Never mind their real ego. There you go, confirmed again by the profound sound. When someone's phone goes off like this, they have to make a profound statement about the holy name.
Yes.
I don't have anything profound to say.
Well, that's quite profound. At least you've admitted it.
The thing is, if somebody is doing maybe one or two rounds, anything such as that,
One or two
rounds of japa.
Just chants 1 or 2 rounds.
So starting with, right? So then maybe after a while also it says, no, this is what I can do. This. How do we, inspire this moment?
How do we inspire them to chant more rounds?
Yeah.
If they chant 1 or 2.
Yeah. My students have started 4, 8, and then eventually go 16.
Well, we're kind of breaking it to everybody gently, but because we're saying chant 1 round, and we're saying, actually, why don't you chant 2 rounds? And we're saying, why don't you chant 4 rounds? And then eventually, when we're chanting 16 rounds, do you know what we say to them then? Well, why don't you just chant all the time? Because that's what we're supposed to do, actually. So 16 rounds was Srila Prabhupada giving a concession in the hope that in the future we would realise how important the chanting was. And when we did realise how important it was, we wouldn't stop. Now, say for instance I was a very rich man, and I said to Paddy, I'm going to give you £16 every day, but you're very welcome to take more if you want, but you at least have to take 16. And so she comes and she gets her £16 and you say, Pat, do you want another one? She says, do you know, I don't think I've actually got the time to take another one off you. But, thanks anyway. I really appreciate it. But if you really valued the money, then you'd be, and you could take as much as you want, you'd be like, okay, yeah, right, okay, well, let's have 64. Let's go for 108, or whatever it is. So the chanting is like that. We're chanting initially 1 round, 2 rounds, 16 rounds, to get to the point where we can realize how valuable the chanting is, so that we get to the point where we think, I need to chant all the time. And you can actually chant all the time, because you can be chanting in the mind, even when you're going around shopping and doing things. The chanting can be going on all the time. It's like if you've been in a really nice kirtan, and then the kirtan stops and you go about, and then that melody is still there, and the chanting is still going on in the mind. Because, you see, the chanting, it doesn't have a beginning and it doesn't have an end. The chanting is eternal. And so we're doing 16 rounds to try and realize that actually we should never stop chanting. And we never started chanting, we just always chant. It's eternal, you see. And we had one devotee back to Prabhu Maharaj come, and he was chanting 64 rounds a day. And he said, what he noticed when he was chanting 64 rounds is that the time passed much more quickly. So it felt like he was only chanting for 2 hours, although he was chanting for 5 or 6 to get 64 rounds done, So it should be that when you're chanting nicely, you break free from past, present and future, and you become situated in the eternal present. And then when you're chanting, the time is going, but you're not aware of it. You just get so lost in your chanting. And if the chanting is good, then why would you want to stop? The more you chant, the less problems you have. The less you chant, the more problems you have. So how long is it going to take before you think, ooh, maybe I should chant more then? How long is it going to take before you realise that? If you ever try chanting 64 rounds, the mind goes very quiet. It's like almost like a little mouse. You chant 64 rounds and the mind will say, do you think we could have a cigarette? You go, nope. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to say anything, sorry. And it's just like so submissive and so humble, So if you chant a lot of rounds all in one go, you diminish the power of the mind till it becomes just like a little suggestion and nothing more. And you just have to go, nope, and go, okay, sorry, okay, fine. Let's do something Krishna conscious there, that's okay. Kirtaniya Sadhari, so it's not, Lord Chaitanya isn't saying chant in the humble state of mind and be more tolerant and show more respect, and in that way you can chant the holy name for 2 hours a day. He doesn't say that. He says constantly, even when you're sleeping. And Satyananda Swami was saying, if you wake up and the holy name is on your lips and you realize you've been chanting all night, he says that's when you'll realize you're starting to chant Shuddhanam. That's when it's pure, the holy name is becoming pure, because then the holy name doesn't leave you, it stays with you all the time.
But 16 rounds, we are waiting for when the 16 rounds will be finished and
that's right.
we'll start working.
If you're encouraging somebody to chant more, then the easiest way to do that is to encourage them to increase the quality of their chanting. Because if they chant that 1 or 2 rounds very well, then they'll automatically want to increase. But if they chant 1 or 2 rounds very poorly, then they may become convinced that this chanting doesn't really work. Because there's 2 types of chanting. There's proper chanting, called AC, actual chanting, and there's just chanting. And just chanting is kind of like this. Then there's actual chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. So that's actual chanting. So we want to make sure our chanting is actual chanting. Because if it's just chanting, then it will definitely decrease. If you're only doing 1 or 2 rounds and they're not very good, then pretty much guaranteed you won't be doing 1 or 2 rounds later on, But if you're doing good rounds, then the natural outcome will be that you want to increase, because you'll be experiencing so much benefit from chanting these 1 or 2 rounds. You think, wow, I get 16 times the benefit if I do 16 rounds.
In fact, you get more than 16 times the benefit because if you chant one round, you get so much benefit. But when you chant 16 rounds, because it's what Srila Prabhupada's asked us to do, you don't just get the benefit of 16 times the one round, you get a million times the benefit because the pure devotee, the Nityasiddha, the Uttama Bhakta, has come and asked us to do that. And then the Harinam is so pleased that you've done what my pure devotee has asked you to do. Okay, for that, I'm going to give you unlimited blessing. So that's why the 16 is considered significant. But then the development of that is that it should become, we should be increasing our japa.
But Prabhuji, when you start chanting, 16 rounds or more, you
Yeah.
don't really feel like, you will get benefit. Isn't it? I mean, you are so much into Krishna that you don't even think of any benefits, out of this chanting. It's just, you just flow with Krishna.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's the real benefit, isn't it? The real benefit of chanting is that you want to chant more. And more and more and more. You become a japaholic.
So this is the actual chanting where we think that we have to chant more. It's a realization that when we chant more.
Yeah, like a hungry man, he's eating, and the more he eats, the more famished he's getting. He needs to eat more and more and more. So the more we're chanting, the greedier. We're getting even greedier now to try and chant more and more and more.
It's not just.
Anyway, we've got some kids here, and the kids may be thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be getting this Hare Krishna banged on my head when I get older, and then I maybe don't want to do that. Maybe I want to be an astronaut, or a brain surgeon, or a famous film star, a Bollywood film star.
For kids, Prabhu, I have just asked them to chant one round. So, what is it means? How should I tell them that you chant? You just actually chant, because they won't know even the meaning of what you are doing. Like my daughter, she sits with beat and she says Hare Krishna, but she won't know nothing about it.
Yeah.
So, should I just ask her, okay, keep what you're doing, keep doing what you're doing?
Are the kids here? Oh.
Yeah.
So who are the kids?
They're tired.
They will.
They're a very young one, yeah.
It's
Aruhi. Yeah, she's the same
Aruhi.
age.
Ayushman is also
Aruni.
here.
That's Aruni. Hare Krishna. Oh wow. Haribol, how old are you? 13? 6? Are you 6 years old? Wow. And what do you think about chanting Hare Krishna?
Come here.
So we
Ayush,
definitely will give
come
you
here.
coffee now.
come here.
What do you think about all this Hare Krishna business?
Ayush, come here. Please, beta. So he's my son, Prabhuji.
Oh, okay. Are you 11? 10?
You will be 11 on 4th of May.
What do you think about chanting Hare Krishna? Think it's a good idea?
Yeah.
Do you think your parents are forcing you to do something you don't really want to do?
No.
No?
I got answer from question. Shall I say? If you allow? She feels a bit bored when mom is saying to chant.
Yeah, it's boring, isn't it? Because when you're chanting, nothing's happening, eh? It's just Hare Krishna.
I'm wasting my playing time.
Yeah. Doing something more
What's the
important,
benefit, isn't it? Yeah.
right? Doing something more constructive, more important. So this is, see, the kids are like, a kid is like a mind on legs, basically. It's just, we don't have the refinement to hide. We just come up with it, whatever the mind says. We just say, it's not until later on when we become more sneaky as adults that we learn how to lie and cover ourselves. But the kids were just boring, it's boring. So our minds are like that actually, our minds are saying the same thing. It's just because of our ego I think, well, I'm a great devotee now. I'm like Harry Dash so, oh yeah, I love the chanting. I'm totally into it, you know. But it's not really what we're really out. We're just saying that he's doing this is what's going to make us all cool. You know? So the kid is like, they say that if you ever do a drama, never put an animal or a child on stage because it will completely take everyone's attention. Because the only thing that's real on that stage is the kid or the animal. Everyone else is pretending. So we can find out from the kids what it is that our minds are actually having problems with. And the fact is that because we don't have so much taste for the chanting in the beginning, Shri Krishna Nama Charitadi Sitapya Vidya, it's sweet like sugar candy, but to the joyous person nothing tastes sweet. Even sense gratification doesn't taste sweet to a person with joyous. But if you carefully chant these names every day, a natural relish will awaken. So the question is, will the kid be able to be patient enough to continue on chanting even though there's no taste, to the point where a natural relish will awaken within the tongue?
But that can be only forced. For some time it can be only forced because they won't have that kind of taste.
Well, that's what Vaidhi Bhakti, the beginning stages of Krishna consciousness are Vaidhi Bhakti. So we get up at this time because we have to, we chant the Hare Krishna because we have to, we don't do this because we have to, we shouldn't do this, or whatever, you know. So everything is because we have to do it. That's Vaidhi Bhakti. And if you're patient enough and a natural relish awakens within your tongue, then you'll want to do it, you'll want to rise up, you'll want to avoid the sinful activity, you'll want to chant Hare Krishna. Then it starts to become Raga Bhakti, spontaneous, you know, where we actually feel some real strong emotion, some positive emotion towards wanting to do it. But the challenge is, can you be patient enough to wait, you know? Children are very impatient, you know, everything has to be right now. When I was a kid, when it was Christmas time, at night I would sneak down and undo all the presents, take all the sellotape off and have a look to see what the presents were, and then sellotape them all back up again. So my parents would know, because I couldn't wait till Christmas to open the presents, you know. So children are very impatient, they can't wait. Whereas adults are a little bit more intelligent, think, well, it's not happening just now, but my friend, Priti, she's been taking longer than me, and she says that after 6 months, that's when she starts. And I'm only been chanting for 6 weeks, so I'm going. So adults have that intelligence to be able to be patient and wait, you know.
Sure. Yeah. So Prabhu, so again circling back on the quality chanting. So when sometimes we are chanting, we are like, you know, we are on a, I don't know where we are a little bit, you know, lost, or you can say we are not around us. So does it call the actual chanting, or is it like we are lost somewhere? Now we are not. No, I'm telling what I feel. So I'm just. How do we know that we are actually chanting?
Well, generally, chanting is like putting a rod in the fire. So if you put a rod in the fire and pull it out for 30 seconds, there won't be much difference. The longer you leave the rod in the fire, the hotter it gets. Till eventually it's like fire. Anything you touch it to will ignite. So that's why we recommend 16 rounds all in one go, so the rod's in the fire as long as possible that way. If you keep pulling the rod out after half an hour and then putting it back in, it's only going to go so hot. So if you can sustain the chanting over a longer period of time, then as much as you can break through these barriers, you see. But the first 4 rounds are just warming up, just you getting into the idea that I'm going to chant. The next 4 rounds are still the mind settling down. Next 4 rounds you actually start to be able to focus, and then the last 4 rounds from 12 to 16, they should be the best quality ones, where you've realised, oh, I'm actually chanting here, I better get into it, and then you actually start to focus. So it takes, that's why we say 16, because it takes the first 12 just to tune in.
Very good.
That's why the first couple of rounds are terrible. It's like, well, that's part of the territory generally. First few rounds, are you just realising, okay, well the mind's been in the mode of ignorance for 6 hours, solid 6-7 hours. So whatever's been going on in the mind's been in full control of it. And then you get up and you have a shower, and you maybe go to Mangalarti, and then you're sitting down with the mind to try and pull it back in again. So it's not going to get pulled back in again so easily. It's been floating around all around the universe. trying to yank it back down. So we have to be patient with the mind. But if you've been trying to chant sincerely, then usually by the 12th round, then they say the plane of the mind, eventually after the 12th round, it starts to come in on the runway of Vaikuntha, it starts to settle down.
So, Prabhuji, can I have one question? So sometimes we are very busy, anyone, busy in service, temple service or any other services, and they could not do 16 rounds on that day. So do we feel bad that, we could not do 16 rounds today? Or
Well, you could feel bad, or you could sleep less. So you could wait up.
That's a good answer.
So bottom line is you have to do.
Am I going to feel more bad if I get an hour's less sleep? Or am I going to feel more bad? No, don't check my rounds.
Got you.
If you've made a vow to your Guru Maharaj that you will do this every day, and generally the Indians are more cultured, so they take vows more seriously than the Western. The Western people will say, well, I know I married you 12 years ago, but 12 years ago you look a lot different than you do now. And I just don't feel like really want to follow it through anymore, So that's the way the West take vows. But with us, when we take a vow, that's it. Come hell or high water, I've said I will do this, So I will do it. My Guru Maharaj have promised him, So I will do it. So it's late, and I'm tired. But better I'm a little bit tired tomorrow than I haven't been around, That's a bit hardliner. I'm a Scottish hardliner. We're all hardliners, I'm Scottish. The old school.
You spoke about costumes and
Oh yeah, the fancy dress party.
yeah. So and then you mentioned that after this life, we're gonna come back into another fancy dress party.
Yeah.
But obviously before that we have to find our spirit. What do you mean that like we find our true identity, our true personality, or we find our connection to Krishna, what rasa we want to develop with him?
Yeah.
Or does that go hand in hand?
Well, generally, there's not much choice, actually, in ISKCON. In our line are all Manjaris. And there's a few occasions where Lord Chaitanya offered Manjari Bhav, and the Lord says, no, I'm a Ram Bhakta, and I just love Ram. And so Lord Chaitanya, that's fine, I'm not your Swarup, you want to stay with that? But he did offer them the chance, So that's what we're being offered. And Lord Chaitanya can change your Swarup if you want it. You can make him if you want, if you're attracted. And we should find it very attractive because it's the most confidential, it's the highest, If you're looking for Krishna consciousness, that's it. It's in the pinnacle of its perfection, if you can understand that, So that's why we're being offered the highest. Whatever rasa that you find attractive, if you look at it from a philosophical point of view, this is the most confidential, this is the highest, because it lets you into pastimes that nobody else can enter into because they're so confidential.
Does it count under Madhurya rasa?
Yeah. So it's the sweetest. And if you have Madhurya, then you have Vatsalya, Sakya, and Dasya, all combined. You don't, it's everything combined. It's not that if you have them, you don't have those others. You have them, plus you have. Because Madhurya, you want to protect Krishna, want to be Krishna's friend, want to serve Krishna. They're all combined in Madhurya rasa. So it's like saying, well, I'd really like £1,000, and someone else says, I'd really like £10,000, and someone else says, I think I'd prefer $1 million actually. Well, the guy that gets the $1 million, he doesn't miss out on getting 10,000 or 1,000, he gets everything automatically. So. Whereas if you just get the 1,000, then you can't have the 10 or the million, you just got to have the 1,000.
One more question. Sorry. So it says that, in whatever form you you say Harinam, it always counted. So even though he said that, your mind is lost, but you're still chanting. So will that also be counted? I mean, we always try to bring in our mind in Krishna consciousness, just keep on pulling that and, start chanting again and again. So whatever we chanted when our mind was not
Yeah.
with us, so
Yeah.
will that also be counted?
It will if you keep chanting. It won't if you stop. If you stop, if you're chanting 1 or 2 rounds and you're thinking, oh, this is terrible, and I don't really want to do this, and then you decide to hang the beat back up and stop,
Okay.
then it doesn't count as much because it's actually just namaparad that you're chanting. But if you think, no, this is not good, and you keep pushing and you keep pushing, then it goes namabas, and then namabas will eventually lead to shuddhanam. But if you stop at namaparad, then you don't make advancement in namaparad. You only make advancement when you push through namaparad and namabas. So we're all namaparad to begin with, we're all offensive. But if we're prepared to push on through that, into the namabas, to keep trying, then that becomes our saving grace. But if you stop at namaparad, and you may decide, well, no, this is as hard as I want to try, and this is the best that I can do, then your entire life, you just chant namaparad. You don't make any advancement spiritually. All you do is you get your material desires fulfilled. That's all namaparad does. So you have this massive car, you have this wife that looks like Miss Bengal 2023. You have all these kids that have got PhDs. You've got a house that's so big you need an elevator to get to your bedroom. You've got everything, but you've not got Krishna. That's not namaparad.
So if we are getting materially rich, that means we are doing namaprad. To identify. By chanting Krishna.
And if you feel bad about that, and you give it all away, then you can come to namabas.
That's a good point.
That's a good one.
Again, the mind trick.
I was thinking that sometimes, I remember a lot of people where, they'll do kirtan, they like going to kirtans and in temples.
Yeah.
And in that time, they feel blessed, they want to sit down and chant over there.
Yeah.
As soon as they come to them back home, everyday life, and they're not interested in chanting. They see, okay, I've done my bits, by going to kirtan and going to retreats, going to kirtans and temples and everything. That is my job is done.
That's
Yeah.
enough. That's enough for this life.
Yeah.
You mean they prefer kirtan or
So that's
Yeah.
so Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that there's different types of ruchi. So he says if you go to a man who's hungry and you say to him, I've got some food for you, some prashadam for you, and he goes, oh really, what type of prashadam is it? He goes, well, it's pakoras and halava. And then he says, is there any samosas? And so that means he's not very hungry. Now if you went to somebody that had been crawling through the Sahara Desert for 14 days and was gasping, and you said, I've got some prashadam, oh bring it. It's 3 days old, no problem, give me it. Maybe taking it like anything because he would have such a taste. So if somebody doesn't have a very strong taste, then they only like the kirtan if it's sung in a nice way. They only like if the nice instruments are being played, and only if they're wearing nice dhotis and everything's okay, then they can be into the kirtan. Otherwise, so that means they don't have a very strong taste. You see. So that may be there in the beginning. See, sometimes people may just be interested in prashadam and kirtan, and they're not so much interested in japa. So they basically just want to enjoy Krishna consciousness, which is what the demigods are like. They like Krishna, they accept he's God, but they want to enjoy themselves. So that's demigods. So that means you just go to the heavenly planets. You can hang out with all these far-up musicians, and we chant and have somaras and get up to 1 or 2 things, but everything's cool. Until the garland fades. In the heavenly planets, on the last year of their life, they get pregnant. Well, the lady gets pregnant anyway. And the garland fades, and then she knows she's going to die. Because in the heavenly planets, nobody ages. So the only way you know you're going to die is your garland fades, you get pregnant. Then as soon as they give birth, then they die. And they come down as tears. And then the tears come through in the rain. and then the rain goes into the ground and it comes up in the grey, and then the man eats the grey, and the soul goes into the semen, and then it gets discharged. And that's how the demigods fall back down here to the earth. And it's all a waste of time, because no matter how long you were up there in the heavenly planets, if I say to you now, you say now you're finding it difficult, right? And I say, well, that's no problem. You were up there for 20,000 years having a great time. It's like, well, it doesn't do me any good now. It's no use now. So the net result is of no use whatsoever. It's just a distraction and a waste of time. So better that we become serious about practicing Krishna consciousness, and we're not just doing something because it pleases us and it makes us feel happy, but we want to do this because it's going to please Krishna, and it's going to help other people go back to the spiritual realm as well. So then our sense of commitment deepens, and then our taste for Krishna consciousness goes beyond just, who's leading kirtan, what's the instruments being played, and I'm only going to be interested in these certain conditions. Basically, that's what conditional devotional service is. There has to be conditions. Unconditional is, it doesn't matter, it can be anywhere, anytime, with anyone. I'm okay. That's unconditional. But for us, we generally do have conditions, Like Krishna Kishore was just saying, he was giving a class, he's from Ukraine. He said they just got up one day and there was bombs dropping down 3 kilometers away. So they could see the bomb dropping and then boom. And that was, there was no prior warning. It wasn't like they said the day before, oh, by the way, 9:30 tomorrow, there's a bomb going to be. And all these people in that house that got bombed were all just killed. So he wakes up and he sees all this going on. And he said for some of his friends that have been practicing Krishna consciousness for 10 years, they gave up their Krishna consciousness like that. They just thought, well, that's Krishna protecting. Because Ukraine was one of the biggest, there's like 10,000 devotees. It was I think it was the biggest in Europe. They're so strong in Krishna consciousness. And they thought there would be no problems, They thought, well, we're the most devotees here, we're the best devotees, so we'll have no problems. And then the next minute, boom. And so some of them, they've been devotees for 10 years and they just gave up their Krishna consciousness. Well, that's what Krishna is. But that's how he protects his devotees. So we have to develop our faith so that it goes very deep, so that when things don't go according to the conditions that we are expecting Krishna to comply with, then that's okay, that's not a problem. I accept that. I'm just getting a tiny fraction of the reaction that I'm actually doing, so that's right. And I'm very grateful that Krishna has only given me a tiny amount of what I'm actually doing. We tend to be thinking, well, Krishna's only given me a fraction of what I'm due. I should be getting more money. He's only given me a fraction of what I'm due. I should have a big car. He's only given me a fraction of what I'm due. I should have a massive. But we don't see that he's giving us a fraction also of all the reactions that we would do. Especially if we want to make it the last life. Because the way karma works is you get your karma over lifetimes. So you may get a bit of bad stuff this lifetime, a bit of bad stuff the next lifetime. But if you want to make this your last lifetime, you've got to get all the bad stuff in one go to finish off. So the account has to get settled in this one lifetime. All the good and all the bad, finish, pass. Then you can So that means he has to intensify the process. A process that would have maybe taken, 100 lifetimes. It's going to get intensified now, so that it just takes one lifetime. You go back this one lifetime. And how do you know it's your last lifetime? Do you know how you know it's your last lifetime?
You only don't know. If the light is here,
this is totally bogus. If you see
how we believe you?
If you see anyone doing this, they're just bogus.
His hand, Prabhu, his hand.
Wait, which line was it again? I forgot.
I saw saying hand, touching Prabhu hand, the line is straight. And I was wondering,
Prabhuji,
now which direction it will be. Yeah.
We should all get into the line.
If Krishna wants us a life, he will change it.
How do you know it's your last lifetime?
No, I'm saying, I don't know. But if Krishna wishes, he will change it.
I'll tell you how you know. How you'll know it's your last lifetime. When you're dying, if you can hear kirtan, then you know it's your last lifetime. Because that means Lord Chaitanya is complete. So when you're dying and you're lying there in the hospital, and then you hear Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. You know, and no one's put a tape on or anything, or everything goes back to the
No, but that can happen in well, we discriminate devotees and non-devotees practicing and all, which I have experienced in chaplaincy. One of the Mataji, she was Gujarati. I don't know about his history and all, but she was worshipping Lord Krishna, not in our Sampradaya way.
Yeah.
And I was shocked to see that how Krishna reciprocated that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know her from anywhere. But as you say, when she left the body, Krishna arranged devotees
It's
for
up to
her.
Krishna. It's up to Krishna. You don't know what her relationship. There was a soldier, and he got shot. I'm not sure where it was actually. And there was a devotee that was also in the army, and he was chanting regularly. And he saw this crowd, and they were all around the soldier, and he says, "What's wrong?" He says, "He's been shot." And he pushed him. Oh, I think he was just a devotee actually. He was on Sankirtan. He pushed him through the wall, and he said he went over to the soldier. And the soldier, who are you? And the devotee said, "Krishna." And the soldier went, "Krishna." He just he went back. But we can't guarantee that's going to happen like that, you know. So we're trying everything that we can. But in that case, that was it. Krishna arranged it like that. He said the name as he left his body. Bingo. It's just won the spiritual lottery. But if you leave with the name on your lips, then you're going back. You know. Or if you hear the Kirtan, and Srila Prabhupada said if you do this Krishna every single day of your life,
Storage messages come.
he said one day you'll turn around and give somebody a gift, and once you turn around,
I'll record from this.
So just a Sankirtan every day, you'll be fine.
Vrindavan, Ganpati, this